Welcome to episode 288 of the Postal Hub podcast. I'm Ian Kerr. We're going to talk about startups in this episode. Joining me in a moment is Thierry Golliard, who is Director, Open Innovation and Venturing at Swiss Post. We're going to talk about how Swiss Post approaches the idea of startups, whether it's investing in a startup, partnering with a startup, or even helping a startup start from within the postal system itself. A really interesting chat. So coming up in just a moment, Thierry Golliard from Swiss Post. Joining me on the line is Thierry Golliard. Thierry is Director, Open Innovation and Venturing at Swiss Post, and Thierry is one of the speakers at the Leaders in Logistics event being held in London, 28th to 29th of March. Thierry, welcome. We're going to talk about startups inside of the postal ecosystem. A topic we've discussed previously on the podcast, and let's ask the obvious question first of all. Why would a postal operator like Swiss Post be interested in startups?
First, thank you for having me, Ian. Innovation is for Swiss Post, as for any other company, a must-have because the market pressure is increasing. As you know, we are facing several big challenges, like, for instance, the growing competition and the decline in some product segments of the historical core business. So that's why, actually, in order to quickly address these challenges, and also to be able to growth on the market, so we need to speed up the implementation of the group strategy in different manner, organic versus inorganic, over cooperation with larger enterprises, but also startups, and with startups in forms of minority ventures, investments, or acquisition. So you see, it's not just about startups, but clearly the startups are great partners because they bring tech capabilities and solution, they bring talents, they bring the entrepreneur, and they bring the experiences in some use cases that we cannot access purely internally.
Now, you just mentioned that it's not just that the startups are within Swiss Post. You might also be investing in them. What kind of decisions do you have to make to decide whether it's going to be an investment, whether you bring them in, or is there even the possibility for startups to be founded within the company?
Actually, there are several options available. So we might, with external startups, we might collaborate without any equity investments. We might invest in external startups. We might even create startups, kind of spin-offs. So we have all these opportunities. So it depends in which occasions the best options is actually the right one.
Well, let's talk then about the startups and how they fit into the overall structure of a post. So, do startups really get lost inside of a big organization like a post when you think about the massive delivery network and the big post office network? And how does a startup fit into all of that? And how do you avoid the problem of them becoming lost in all of that?
Yes, so you're right, Ian. I think this is, of course, a risk because, as you know, we are very different organizations with particular focus, particular culture. And our job with my team, Open Innovation and Venturing, is really to make this collaboration between the startups and the business units working smoothly. So we see us really like kind of translators, right? So concretely, we connect the internal and the external needs and talents. We set the expectations, we facilitate the exchanges, and we shape the right collaboration framework and setup. Okay, but as you mentioned, it's never an easy job. So you need to be very much structured, have this kind of structured open innovation approach with targeted partners. And for Swiss Post, we have these several services to the business units, some linked with startups, but also several other open innovation services with other innovation ecosystems that are relevant for Swiss Post, like the academic partnerships, for instance. And it works actually in terms of facts and figures. Regarding startups, we are doing about 20 projects without any equity with startups per year, as well as 3 to 4 new investments in startups.
What does success look like then? because we've seen some startups become great successes, the mythical unicorns or whatever. Others get acquired. So what does success look like for a startup inside or as part of the Swiss Post ecosystem?
I think, generally speaking, a startup is not so much different in terms of success than a mature company. So to be successful, so you have to achieve some good performance in various fields like finance, brand awareness, customer satisfaction, and also very important, the motivation of the staff. But one difference between a more mature and established companies and startup is the short-term focus on exponential growth rather than profit. See, so at the end, the central success factor for all the startups remain really the team for me. So the team has to be competent, has to be dedicated, motivated, and very important, the team has to be able to listen from the partners and the customers, to learn and to pivot the business if need be. So as Swiss Post, for instance, we are not interested in one-man show, right? Definitely. The team is the most important success factor for us.
You mentioned just then success and team and things like that. So Thierry, can you share some success stories of the startups that have been part of Swiss Post? As you said, whether it's a startup that Swiss Post is invested in, whether it's partnered, or whether it's even within the Swiss Post ecosystem.
So yes, gladly. So there are actually many market opportunities which we've been collaborating on with startups. And to name some concrete examples, you start by naming same-day deliveries with no time, right? That was a great, and that is a great collaboration. But for instance, we are also tackling reusable packaging with a startup called Kickback. We are doing digital marketing solutions with Spring, cyber security with Acknowledge, and also on the operation side of the business, the use of exoskeletons, for instance, with several startups like Oxivo, or the new mobile scanning system with Scandit, just to name some few examples. But we are also very proud, and you mentioned it as well, of our investment portfolio startups, of at the moment 13 startups. So of course we are proud of the realized exits. So, and with regards, you have the external exits that are great, of course, but the internal exits in the sense of a business unit acquiring majority shares after a minority investment of our venture capital arm. Okay, those examples are great as well, and very positive signal that Swiss Post open innovation and venturing strategy works. And at the same time, it validates that venturing acts efficiently as pre-acquisition, pre-M&A tool for the business units, right? And such internal exits, we did 3 in the last 2 years, and we hope really to replicate such success stories in future as well.
So with those 3, you just mentioned there were 3, what kind of businesses were they? Or are they, I should really say?
Yeah, so that are, for instance, the example, 2 of the example I mentioned. Bring is really operating in the ecosystem of in-store food shopping and offering digital marketing solutions. And on the field of cybersecurity, we acquired actually a couple of months ago Acknowledge, 3 startups. And the last one is Clara, offering for SMEs kind of digital assistance with solutions in marketing, billing, but also digital secure communication.
What's interesting about those 3 solutions that you just mentioned is that they're somehow connected to the Post, but they're not something that the man in the street would ordinarily connect with the Post.
Yes.
So is it easy to sell it internally to say this is why we should be engaging or investing or partnering with a startup like this?
This is somehow challenging, but we have a strategy and we say, okay, there is the core business, but besides the core business, we are doing kind of strategic bets, right, on the verge of this core business. And those examples, they are really in that field. So we are not investing everywhere, but we are investing in disruptive kind of solutions. That's right. Some of them are working fine and will be great solutions for the portfolio of Swiss Post. Some of them will not really match with Swiss Post in mid long term. But those are our strategic bets. It's hard to convince some of the internal stakeholders, but it's clearly a strategy that we have that also our executive board supports. And so far, as I mentioned, it has been working fine.
Because there's a perception, I suppose, in the broader postal and delivery world that any acquisition has to be aligned with something like delivery, let's say. So we've seen a few European postal operators partner with or invest in same-day delivery companies or super fast delivery companies or whatever it might be. And that seems like a natural fit. So it's interesting that Swiss Post has been able to take this broader approach instead of just saying, well, we're a delivery company.
Yeah. Also, let me share very clearly, those logistics and supply chain innovation fields are very important for Swiss Post as well. And we are investing in those startups also, right? But besides that, of course, we have different kind of business. We have also person transport mobility as a big business for Swiss Post. We have financial services as a big business. And we have also secure digital communication as a very important business unit as well. So we are trying to invest in those areas too.
The financial side of things, though, is quite interesting. When I say financial, I mean financial services. Now, can you just, for the listeners, Thierry, could you just give us a quick overview of what Swiss Post already does in terms of financial services? Does it have its own post bank, or is it partner with other banks? And then how does sort of the financial startups fit into that?
Yes, of course. So we are still owning a business unit called Post Finance, offering those kind of financial services. In terms of startups, what we did, for instance, is that it was in that case a kind of spin-off, really, but we invested, clearly and hugely in new mobile payment solutions. So we create a new mobile service called Twint in Switzerland. It was all about mobile payment. It was about 10 years ago. So we did this strategic bet. We spin off Twint out of Post Finance, out of Swiss Post actually, acquire several external investors. And now Twint is the most used mobile payment application app in Switzerland by far. So this is the kind of new spin-off internal startups we did with our business unit Post Finance 10 years ago.
What's also interesting about this is the role of the Post as a place for innovation. And the public perception of the Post, it might not necessarily be that of being an innovative organisation. But if you could think of it as what should we call it? An incubator for ideas. Do you see that as being part of the role of the innovation segment of what Swiss Post does, to be an incubator, and whether the startup remains within Swiss Post or outside of Swiss Post, that's sort of part of its role?
Yeah, I think the perception of Swiss Post is on the market somehow not as good as it should be, because I think logistics and supply chain is really extremely sexy, if I don't think that. But that's the case. So first, about the internal, competence and skills that we still have in our company, it's huge. We are a reservoir of about 50K people having huge knowledge. You can leverage that one on the internal side. On the external side, I think we have also huge assets, for instance, for external startup, especially abroad startups. So we can offer Swiss market entry. We can combine their great tech capability with our market competence in mobility, in financial services, in supply chain, in logistics, and so on. So we have really huge assets. And if you find the right way to combine those internal and external assets, I think you are, as Swiss Post, great partners for those external startups and so on. But you need to position that, you need to pitch that, you need to lobby. And if you achieve that, I think you are sexy.
Well, there you go, everybody. If you can achieve that, then you're sexy. Now, moving on from sexiness, maybe not. Maybe we are remaining with that topic. But just quickly, before we wrap up, there at Swiss Post headquarters, there is a little some offices there for the innovation team. Is it the startup team or innovation team?
Innovation team.
So just tell us a bit about how that's structured or how many people are involved, because it's interesting that you walk through the doors there at Swiss Post and it's basically there. So it's in your face that innovation is part of the brand. So just tell us a bit about the setup you have there.
Yeah, so the setup, we have a corporate development team on the group level. And in this group, in this corporate development team, so we have three main topics, right? So we have innovation, we have strategy, and we have corporate sustainability. And somehow those topics are very close linked, right? So we have really huge competence in these three areas, and that's helping a lot first. And then open innovation. So we have two teams split. So the internal innovation. So I have a colleague trying to leverage these internal assets of employees and so on. And I'm leading this open innovation and mentoring team trying to leverage the external innovation potential. And so we are a team of about 10 people, very different backgrounds and great diversity, but it's much needed. And actually, we try also to promote our approach. And as I said, I mean, it's also proven that we had good examples, and we are not just talking about innovation, but also doing innovation. And the terms and the facts and figures I mentioned before, with 20 projects, with startups, with 4 investments, that are not blah blah or small talks. They are really facts. And having these facts, I think we are also able to attract good startups to work with.
Thierry, we've covered a wide range of topics there in the shortest time. Everything from the internal startups through to partnering or even investing in external startups. And those of you listening, if you want to meet Thierry in person, you don't have to go to Swiss Post headquarters. You can go to Market Forces Leaders in Logistics event in London, 28th and 29th of March, where Thierry will be speaking. Thierry Golliard, Director, Open Innovation and Venturing at Swiss Post. Thank you for being part of the Postal Hub podcast today.
Thank you.
Coming soon on the Postal Hub podcast. Anne Snitko from Omnic returns to talk about parcel lockers. We've got Paul Kirby talking about electric delivery vehicles. An interesting discussion, that one. And I've got Mark Fallon and Mike Plunkett talking about US postal reform. Some great topics coming up on the Postal Hub podcast soon. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. You know what I mean. Subscribe in your favourite podcast platform like Google Podcasts or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And subscribe to my email newsletter as well. Go to thepostalhub.com and you'll see links there to subscribe to my newsletter that I send out every time there's a new episode. You can also subscribe to the Daily Delivery Digest, which is a nice little email that hits your inboxes every day with all the headlines from around the delivery world. Remember to follow me on LinkedIn for all kinds of stuff, on LinkedIn. It's better than a lot of the rubbish that's out there at the moment, let's put it that way. And if you want to contact me about anything at all, my email address is ian@thepostalhub.com. I'm Ian Kerr. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to your company next time on the Postal Hub podcast.